Hey, we are live. Aaron Whitlow,
Brandon Spivey.
we are the Markout Movie Podcasters. And in today's episode, we are doing two things. One is we are going to review uh, a movie on Netflix, a Netflix original by Spike Lee called The Five Bloods. And Brandon, what else are we doing?
We're gonna talk about Chadwick Boseman's career, his life. What he meant to not only us, but fans in general, like Marvel or people that really like biopics, such as 42, or the James Brown movie. Get
Get on
down,
up. Get on
get
up.
on up. I wanted to get down.
I bet you
yeah.
did. And
Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit about him. Celebrating his life. So
yeah,
that's what
for
this episode's
those
about.
that has been living under a rock, Chadwick Boseman died on August 28th, 2020, after a 4-year battle with colon cancer. It's colon cancer, correct?
Right.
And
It was.
and
Yeah.
he and and that is tragedy. Tragic. What's so tragic as well is the thing is no one outside of his immediate family and only a few other people knew that he even had cancer. And if you think about this time frame, from the time he was diagnosed with stage 3 to the time he became stage 4 and he passed away, the man made movies after movies after movies. Like the movies that you would associate the most with him, other than with the exception of 42 or something like that, he made during this time frame in which he had cancer. And so
Yeah.
that's amazing to me, Brandon.
Oh, it's unheard of. I mean, honestly, I remember the guy that played Hulk. He had cancer and he was like directing certain movies, TV movies, and his condition, it was really bad. He was in really bad condition, but he was still going to work and everything. That is the only time I can really relate, or remember someone doing that in this business. Most people, they're at home, you know, getting the treatments and keeping it private or whatever, but they're not working in most cases at stage 3 anyway. I mean, so I he's he's a true hero in my book. Uh,
Absolutely. And what he left out there on the scene was remarkable. And I know we ain't even got into the Five Bloods, and we will, but it was amazing to me that he even went as far as like. Remember, we watched last year. We was able to see 21 Bridges,
yeah,
which is one of his, which we both recommended people see it. We both
yeah,
stated that it was that Chadwick did a great job, and I also said that I could see this being a franchise character that he goes forward and doing different things because we just loved his character, his personality, and you watch that movie and the action and the stuff he does in it, you would have never even known this man was probably at that point stage 4. You know,
yeah, yeah. I couldn't tell. Well, I couldn't even tell when he did the Denzel appreciation speech. I know he was thinner. I remember him being skinnier, but you don't think, oh, he's sick or anything, And I'm coming from it's coming from somebody that's been sick. And I remember I lost a lot of weight in my face, and I looked sick. He didn't look sick though. To me, he just looked skinnier. He didn't. He looks when you have cancer. I mean, your mother had it as well. You had a form of cancer. You start to look sick in the face. From my experience, I mean, I did, and I noticed it, and I was like, and this is before I even got diagnosed. I was like, something's wrong. But anyway, yeah, but he did not. He didn't look sick at all. Um, it's I like I said, he's a true hero. I mean,
absolutely.
going to all these children's hospitals and meeting all these kids that are actually fighting cancer and everything, and he's going through it, and it's unheard of. From my point of view, that someone would do that at the stage he was at. That's just unheard of.
and at the level that he did, and so,
Yeah,
but yeah, he was just an amazing actor, and not only that, but I didn't know him personally, but he was an amazing human. It seems like an amazing human being that he was.
yeah,
And as far as like people's appearance, like I've seen a few photos of him looking skinnier, but he was a method actor, and so he, much like a Christian Bale or something that lost
yeah,
a lot of weight for the mechanic, and so a lot of these actors will really, like Jared Leto or something, will really morph into these personas, and Joaquin Phoenix, somebody that will really become these characters, and just to kind of nail down that role, that character. And you would think, and if you didn't know that he was sick, you would think, oh, he's just preparing for a role in which he is, thinner and things like that. You wouldn't have thought, oh well, he has an illness, because he didn't carry him. He didn't allow his illness to carry him. You see what I'm saying?
yeah,
He he didn't, like, no one knew, but he still performed. And his family says that they felt that towards the even a week or so prior to his death, he still felt that he was going to bounce back and be ready for Black Panther 2. So that's and we'll talk about where they should go with that as well. But yeah, I just want to touch on real quick before we get into the Five Bloods, your reaction to his passing.
shock. Like I think it was you that sent me a message that I got sent a few messages, but I think you were the first one, and I didn't believe you.
I
I was
wouldn't, I
like,
wouldn't
no,
joke about that, man. I
no.
would not joke about
I was like, there's no way. I mean, no way. I mean, but yeah, shock was the first thing I thought of, and I thought, wow, and what a body of work he left, though. I mean, uh, he was in his prime. I would say one of the top five actors going today. I mean, people always comparing he's the next Denzel, but reality is he was the first Chadwick, and and that's not an insult to Denzel or anything, but he was his own actor, he was his own man. He didn't try to copy Denzel. He was Chadwick, and he was terrific. Uh, but yeah, shock was my first reaction. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, yeah, same here. My daughter hit me with a message and said, "Did you hear about? Did you hear about Chadwick?" But and I said, first I was like, "Chadwick who? Like, do I know somebody personally named Chadwick?" And she said, "No, Chadwick Boseman." I'm like, "No, what's up?" And she's
Yeah,
like, "He died," and I was like, and you always hear people post stuff like Jackie Chan died, or things like that.
yeah,
Chuck Norris is dead, or things like that, or Betty White. I'm glad these people are still living, but you hear these stories and you're like, ah. So I looked it up, and sure enough, I see that he passed, and it was just shock,
yeah,
but shock, yeah, but yeah, segueing into another shocking element, not to compare it to Chadwick's death at all, but uh, this movie that came out prior to his death, um, The Five Bloods by Spike Lee. It is a Spike Lee joint.
it
Um,
definitely. Yeah, it is. It feels like it.
um, Four African American vets battle forces of man and nature when they return to Vietnam, seeking the remains of their fallen squad leader and the gold fortune he helped them hide. This was initially released June 12, 2020, directed by Spike Lee, and the budget was 35 to 45 million dollars. And it starred Chadwick Boseman as Stormin' Norman, or Stormin' Norm as they call him, uh, Delroy Lindo, which we'll talk about him as Paul. Jonathan Majors as David. Clark Peters as Otis, who was very remarkable as well. Melanie Thierry as Hetty. Bivior. I can't pronounce French names. And then Norm Lewis as Eddie, and Hanoi Han as Nungjo Van, which I won't really get into those people. Uh, Brandon, hit us with them numbers.
All right, the numbers. So it gets a 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb. Metacritic gives it an 82%. 80% like it on Google. Go to Rotten Tomatoes. It's got a 92% on the tomato meter, so it's fresh. But the audience score is 54%. So
And and
there you go.
and I can understand that it is that low with the audience score because, and I'll be the one to say it, this is a very divisive movie. This is a very divisive film that I think you're either gonna like it or you're not gonna like it, or you're in that weird area where you're like, I don't know how to respond to it. And I think that's
That would
where
be
I'm at.
me.
I'm in that area.
Yeah. But I appreciate not only the performances, especially Delroy, but I appreciate, Spike Lee making a film like this.
Mhm.
Uh,
Absolutely.
I mean, which that's Spike Lee though. I mean, he's, he don't care what anybody thinks, about him or his films. He's gonna make what he wants, and that's Spike. I respect that man. I
Yeah.
don't like every film he does, but I respect that man.
And so the Five Bloods, so these guys were all, this is spoiler heavy, guys, because there's no way you can talk about this movie without spoiling it.
Yeah.
So these guys were all army buddies back in Vietnam, and the movie starts off with, movie was jarring at first. It's very jarring, and there's other scenes that's very jarring, but I wasn't expecting the opening monologue, if I don't know if you call it that, the opening credits or the opening stuff, because it focused with a lot of archive footage of like the war and violence and violence here in the United States, protests and civil unrest here, also protests and civil unrest in other countries. And they have some famous freeze frames, like the man who was moments from being executed, uh, and the burning monk, and they have these images, and you're like, well, I've seen those images, but then somehow Spike Lee found the footage and he showed the footage, and I wasn't prepared to see the man get shot in the head, and I wasn't prepared to see the man actually burning,
Yeah.
and I wasn't prepared to see bodies and things like that. uh, it's very uncomfortable, but I think Spike Lee does stuff like that just to say, I need you to get it. I need you to see what I'm talking about and not just imagine what I'm talking about.
Yeah. You know what else though? That was during the Vietnam War, and yet we're still dealing with it today. And that comes into play at the very end, the last kind of shot at the end with the Black Lives Matter situation. That scene they shot for that. So I think he's telling you what I perceived it to be from how it starts and how it ends. We're still dealing with the same problems that we've been dealing with since pretty much day one. You
Mm.
know, and like I said, I appreciate this kind of film. It's hard to watch at times, but it's very real at the same
It is.
time, and I
And
appreciate that film. I may not like it or love it. I can't say I don't like it. I appreciate it though. If
it's
that
hard
makes
to
any
love.
sense.
It's a
Yeah,
movie
it is
that's
hard to
hard to
love.
love.
Yeah,
Uh,
because we're dealing with it today. The riots, people getting killed. I mean, we're dealing with that still today. I don't
and
know what's gonna happen, but it's a very real film.
right,
This film
and
feels like it's real. I mean, and some of it is, but
absolutely. And I just realized I need to plug up this laptop so it won't die on me. But yeah, we're still talking about it. I just thought about it. I was like, yeah, one thing I didn't do is plug up my laptop, but that's okay. But anyway, the film starts with these images, and then from there we it stops with an image, an old image of like it looks like a hotel or a really busy part of Vietnam,
Yeah.
and then it went immediately to like modern day, and you see how the city looks different. The city looks tourist like. The city looks more inviting from the and I think that's what they wanted. That's what he wanted to also uh, say about Vietnam too, because when a lot of times when you see Vietnamese and people within Vietnam in this movie, you don't see a violent Vietnam. For the most part, you see party place. You know, people dancing, having a good time, and things like that. And I want to say this before I dive deeper into this. I want to compliment Spike Lee's going to Vietnam and shooting on location, or at least it seemed to me he did. I didn't check, I didn't verify that. If anybody's seen this and knows, say it in the comments and let us know. You can also comment if you're watching this. I'm bleeping out a little, but
Yeah. All
you
that.
can you can it's because Spike Lee don't like me talking about him, but no, uh,
That camera of yours doesn't like you.
that's what it is. You know, it doesn't happen with no one else. So StreamYard, it's happening here, and it happens with another place that zooms a lot. But anyway,
Zoom's the worst. I
Zoom's
mean,
the worst, and I
it's just
hate
the
to say
worst.
that Zoom because we're really pulling for you, Zoom, but we had to move on over here and to other places. But my
But
point was, he shot in location, and I thought I commend him for that because it looked really good, and he really did a really good shoot. Like it really looked really good.
I agree. It looked really good. I don't know if he shot on location. Exactly. I mean, I didn't look it up either. I didn't watch all the credits. Just it was just it's a hard movie to watch. But I will say, go up to that point, it does look like it's a party town. And this is kind of one of my problems with the film. We didn't get enough of Vietnam in the war aspect with Chadwick Boseman and Screaming Norman. I wanted more of that, but I guess that really wasn't the point of the story. The point of the story is about the people that survived, these
Mm-hmm.
group of friends that survived it. And boy, I tell you, when you meet these people, ultimately, Delroy stands out to me from the get
Absolutely,
go. From the
absolutely.
get go, I was like, okay, I like his character, and he went in a direction I didn't expect. But I was like, I really like him. I'm pulling for this guy from the get
He's
go. I was like, man, this is like he's giving an Oscar worthy performance from the get
and
go, and I'm like, okay, this is gonna be something special to watch because Delroy doesn't get the recognition he deserves. He's a very underrated actor. I've never seen him give a bad performance ever. He's very professional. So I love that he got this kind of a role in this kind of a movie. I love that.
absolutely.
What's your
And
thoughts on it?
yeah, real quick, I want to verify it. So on IMDb, it was filmed in Chiang Mai, Thailand, Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, and just Vietnam, and then Thailand. So it was actually filmed on location. I just wanted to put that out there. My first thought was I agree with you about Delroy. Out of all the guys, also I want to say this: all the guys is named after the members of the Temptations. I called it because I'm a fan of the Temptations. So when I started hearing them say Otis, David, Eddie, Melvin, Paul. When I'm hearing these names, and then Norman, uh, like Norman Whitfield, well, Norman, the other guy that ended up becoming a part of the Temptations after David Ruffin left, I noticed these things. I'm like, oh, they're going Temptations. So I noticed that. But uh, Otis, which is I want to say uh, Otis is Delroy, right? Or he is Paul.
Uh,
I think Otis was. I think Delroy played Paul.
yeah, he
Um,
played Paul. David was his son. Uh,
yeah, Paul.
Otis
So
was the one that had he had the affair with the
yeah,
prostitute that ended up having a
oh
kid.
yeah, Otis was good too. Otis was good too.
Yeah, they
But
were all good. I
but
mean,
I want to
Delroy was
say
on another level.
no. That's what I'm saying. They were good, but Delroy came to play.
Yes, he did.
It felt like Delroy Lindo was his character was so well thought of.
Yeah,
I felt like his character was so well rounded, and he was a you know how you look at a movie you realize this is a real person. You don't see him as a character, you see him as a real person.
yeah,
Delroy Lindo did this in this movie. I felt that he was a Vietnam veteran with PTSD who was haunted by his past, um, and he man he eats every single scene that he's in,
oh yeah, he's so
and
good in it.
this is not a criticism. It when Delroy's on screen, I watched it more. I watched it more when
Yeah,
Delroy was on screen.
absolutely. When he wasn't on screen, I was kind of zoning out. I was losing interest a little bit, and I hate to say that but when Delroy's on screen, I'm locked in, and you don't really get a lot of performances like this. When you do, they're very special, and this was a very special performance.
Mm-hmm.
Will be one reason why I remember this movie because of his performance.
His and I want to this is one of another criticism I have about this movie, which I guess I can understand why Spike did this, but I don't like that he did this. I wanted him to I wanted every time us to see them in the past to see younger people playing them
Yeah,
versus them as their older selves playing alongside a young Chadwick Boseman. I didn't like that. Although
yeah,
I love seeing Delroy Lindo and Chadwick sharing screen time together because they are tremendous together. But I just didn't really like. It takes me out of it because I realize it's not. I realize it's not real. I'm not even mad that he went from wide ratio to like small aspect ratio when he went back to the war times. I'll be okay more with it if he transformed the characters back into the wartime them versus the current ones in wartime. That took me out.
yeah. It took me out too. I guess although it was showing the audience what was going through their mind, especially Delroy, uh, his character Paul, especially him, because this was on his mind constantly. It was 24/7. He was haunted by the events of Storm and Norman.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to him, and we don't know exactly. We just assume he died in war. We don't know what really transpired. I wasn't expecting what happened to happen, but it makes sense with his
Well,
character.
well, you know what I thought was going to happen. Actually, I did kind of think that Paul killed Norman, but I thought that he killed him because uh, he wanted to get the gold, and uh,
Um,
and I thought it was gold related. And so, because whenever it came to the goat, Paul turned into a totally different person. He became so unhinged.
yeah,
He became a totally different person. So that's what I thought it was. But honestly, it was spoilers. He died of friendly. The Storm and Norman dies of friendly fire accidentally when Paul is surprised by a Viet Cong that came through and he shoots him and he sprays his gun and accidentally catches Norm and kills him. And that his ghost has been haunting him ever since. It hasn't been a day that went by that he hasn't seen him. And that speaks
yeah,
to like the tragedy of war, the tragedy of war, and that also affected Paul's raising of David. And
Yeah.
but another character I want to bring up that I didn't like. I liked him, but I didn't like him. Was Otis? I believe his maybe it's Otis or Melvin. Melvin, the one with the pigeon toes. Eddie. Eddie is his name. I'm sorry, Eddie. Eddie with the pigeon toes. When Eddie dies, guys. Eddie dies in this movie badly. But what I don't like is the way that Spike Lee like set it up. It's like when you watch wrestling and someone sets a turnbuckle, like unties the turnbuckle, you know eventually that turnbuckle is going to come back into play.
Yeah.
And so in this scene, he's giving this little speech like we should be doing something better with this gold, and he just walking backwards and just keep walking backwards. And my first thought is, dude, stop walking backwards. What are you doing? And he
Yeah.
ends up stepping on a landmine like yards away and blowing up. I think it would have been more eventful if it was just the landmine was like right there, because then they found out, oh, they're all on landmines. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I will say this though about that scene. I wasn't like I was kind of paying attention, but kind of not. He was giving his speech and I was like, okay, okay. I see then he blows up and I'm like, what just happened? You know, and I was like, wow. I was like, this just got real. They in a war again over some gold.
And I love that element too, because whenever he blew up,
Yeah.
Paul immediately went back to Vietnam. Like he's already there, but he went back mentally
Oh
to
yeah.
Vietnam, and seeing like bodies and burn this, and then his son. It's just such a tragic movie to watch, man. Um, because you really kind of come to liking the guys, liking all the characters, and don't want to see them get hurt. But also, like Goldman brings the ugliness out of everybody.
Yeah.
It gets
The root of
it
all
gets.
evil.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I just want to mention this, and I ask you your thoughts on it. What do you think about? Because this is Delroy's movie. Like
Oh yeah.
they named Chadwick and they put Chadwick on the cover and stuff, but no bones about it, guys. This movie belongs to Delroy Lindo. This is his film.
Oh yeah,
Um,
no doubt.
what did you
No
think
doubt.
about that monologue where he was walking and looking straight into the camera and talking to you? How do you feel about that?
You know, uh I was just loving it though. I was seeing him, the wheels were turning. They were just turning and turning and turning. And I was like, I actually got lost in watching this movie when he was on screen, and especially that scene. He was just it wasn't Delroy Lindo anymore. It was just he became this character, and I would say he became the character from probably day one. But when all that went down, he was really on fire. I mean, it was kind of like, and I hate to compare it to Joker and Heath Ledger, but it was kind of like he's on another level with everybody else. And I think everybody else is good in that movie, but Heath was on another level, and I felt Delroy was just on another insane level. I hate to compare it to that movie, but he's insane too. So it kind of makes sense because Joker's insane, but it just he just it's an Academy Award winning. I'm gonna say the winning performance from Delroy. If he
Absolutely.
doesn't get nominated, and like I'm not sure what they're doing for the 2021 Academy Awards, but if they are doing one, he definitely deserves to be nominated. He deserves the win. From everything I've seen this year, there's not been one performance that's been close.
No, not
Not
not in
one.
the actors category. Absolutely not.
No.
But yeah, Delroy blows it out the water. And he's on a totally different plane of existence in this movie. Like from
Yeah.
everybody else, everybody was cool, and and then I would say this as well. So when Delroy dies in this movie, when he dies, um, wait a minute, I got a call coming in. This is live. Hello. She should be at work. Oh, yeah,
We
yeah,
are.
she does have her cell phone. Do you need a number? 270.
Well, I don't know if I give it out loud.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me. Wait a minute. I'm doing a podcast. Let me mute my mic because I don't want to give my wife's phone number out over the air.
Yeah, people gonna be calling his wife if he does that. He's gonna be calling it. He's giving his wife's number away on Facebook on this live YouTube. Oh man, gonna be getting some calls tonight.
All right, I'm back. Hey, this is live, guys. It happens. It happens. But anyway. So, so when he dies, when this character dies in this movie, it honestly took me out of it more because the only thing that kept me really hinged into it is Delroy. And when he went off on his own, I was like, "Oh Lord, don't go off on your own, please don't." But then I was thinking, well, maybe they're gonna come, and then I was hoping, well, they're gonna get in trouble, and maybe Delroy's gonna come back and save him. But then when they went to the scene of him getting bit by the snake, and then hallucinating, and then eventually digging his own hole and getting killed, my goodness, it hurt me, man. It hurt. And so the movie, it just kind of took me out more.
But he had redemption though. He came back, and I think that was big for his character. You know, to come back to his right sound of mind, and he started singing that song. He knew he was gone. He knew there's no way out of this. I'm gone. I'm just gonna enjoy the moment.
Yeah, yeah. He knew his curtains.
But before all that happened, you know, he went crazy. He felt his son turned on him, which I mean, kind of did. I mean, if you want the truth, he kind of did turn on him. But at the same time, his character Paul he was losing it, and you know, and you don't want to be trapped, you know, in a minefield and losing it with a guy that's got some very serious issues. But man, it was just such a good performance. And what's his name from Cobra Kai? I shouldn't have said Cobra Kai, but the white guy, the big white guy, was in this movie. I shouldn't have said Cobra Kai.
You mean Jean Renault or whatever his name is?
No. Richard Jewell.
Oh,
he was also in this movie.
The dude from Ricky Jewell.
Cobra Kai.
I forget.
Stingray.
Yeah,
Stingray from Cobra Kai, but he's Richard Jewell in Richard Jewell. So, but yeah, he showed up in this movie. He is so freaked out. I'm like, I laughed at this point because he shows up and there's a bomb going off.
It's true.
I'm like, well, what's the deal with this guy in bombs, man?
Well, Spike Lee used him for the Black Klansman. He was in that movie, and he does a good job. He played like a racist, but he played a lovable racist. Like I was like, I kind of like the guy, but but he didn't like me. But anyway, but he's in that movie. So I think Spike Lee, he also tends to do that because Delroy Lindo has been in another movie of his. I don't know about the other guys if they've been in anything of his, but the other guys are very familiar. I've seen them; they're like character actors. I've seen them in other things, but the major standout in this is Delroy, and then Chadwick, and then Jean Renault, who folks might remember him from Godzilla 2000, like Godzilla 1999. Was it 99 or 98?
I think it's 98. I remember him from Godzilla, Ronin with Robert De Niro, Ronin. There's another film he's been in The Professional. You know, he just hasn't. I hadn't seen him in much lately. So it was nice to see him, but I didn't care for his character one bit.
Yeah, yeah. That, like, and then these other guys, they were in like Scandal and uh, different TV shows. Uh, Just Mercy. Eddie was in that, the one with the pigeon toes, and then
Yeah,
Jonathan Majors. My first time seeing him is I'm watching a show on HBO called Lovecraft Country, and he plays Atticus
I,
in that
I
show.
want to see that.
Oh, it's good. It's so good. And he's in that show. He's like the main character in in that show, and so he's that's where I know him from. That's my first time ever that I'm aware of that I saw him, and now I know him from there. That's where I associate him with now. But I think everybody did good in the movie. Uh, but yeah, as we said before, Delroy was on a different level. Uh, but the movie overall wasn't really my cup of tea, and that's where I can say before we get into the Chadwick stuff. But Chadwick does a good job with his performance, especially his forgiveness speech to
Yeah,
Paul to say, "Hey man, it's okay, blood. It's okay, blood. I got you, blood." No, no, stop, Google. But yeah, so
yeah, but yeah, I agree with you. I think everybody gave a pretty good performance. Just Delroy was on another level. Chadwick, for me, I wanted more of him. But for what we got, I thought he did a really good job, and I agree with you. His speech was with the forgiveness speech was really good.
I don't.
Uh,
I wonder if wonder if Spike could afford more Chadwick. Chadwick was making money. I imagine he couldn't afford more time with Chadwick. I don't know how it goes, but maybe they have certain amount of scenes. Like if you pay an actor maybe more money, you have him for the whole movie, but you might can only get him for maybe a cameo or a small bit role. And for Chadwick, he was able to maybe afford him for a small bit role, or maybe Chadwick's with his chemo and going through what he went through, maybe his time didn't allow for him to have a bigger role in this show
it's
in this movie.
possible because I think as of right now, it's his last performance. So I'm not sure when the film was actually shot and finished, but it had to be sometime within the last year. I mean, so he was probably in bad shape. I mean, he didn't look it. That's the thing. He just didn't. He didn't look sick,
Yeah,
even in this movie. But when he does die in a movie, it became real for me right at that point because I wasn't watching Storm and Norman die. I was watching Chadwick.
yeah.
Because you know he passed and all, and I was like,
And
man,
how scared he was, the scared look on
yeah,
his face when he passed in that movie. Um,
yeah. I think it was like life imitating art right there, and just man, they took me right out of the movie. It just because I wasn't seeing Storm and Norman die, I was seeing Chadwick die. But I agree with you. It wasn't my cup of tea either. But like I said, I appreciate the movie. I think these type of movies need to be made. These aren't movies you're gonna just adore, but they're like they're gonna educate you. You know what it's like to be in a war, or especially a black man in a war.
right.
You know, and
And the
that's
prejudice.
yeah, that was the message. They haven't been treated right ever, and I mean, I'm not saying everybody doesn't treat black people right, but I'm saying a lot of people don't.
Yeah,
And but yeah, I think that was the message of the movie. Is that these people didn't get treated right.
right.
Are you okay over there?
I believe my neighbors are arguing with one another, and
Well,
I
that's
don't
never
know.
good.
Yeah, okay, it's okay. Ain't none of my business. They just like four or five
None of his business, but he
angry.
sure is watching.
It's like what it is four or five angry white women yelling at like one
Well,
black guy. So it's
mm,
weird. But okay, all right. We talking about race, and this is happening outside my window. But anyway, let's go ahead and give our ratings for the movie. All right, so nobody lives except for one guy, Otis.
yeah,
I want to make sure I get his name right. Otis lives, and everybody else. and David lives, but everybody else dies. One of them jumps on top of the grenade, which it was very it was just a weird ending, man. But anyway, I'm gonna give
It
the
kind of
movie,
falls apart at the end. It kind of does
yeah.
fall apart.
I think I'm gonna marry you in this, and because on my letterbox I gave it 3, I want to say, but I'm gonna go ahead and give it 2.5 markouts out of 5, because it wasn't a movie that I really would say that I enjoyed. It's something that is was eye opening, but I never really want to see it again. And but if I did ever tell anybody to watch it, it would be for Delroy Lindo. That would be
Yeah,
the reason why I would tell people, please pay attention to this man in this movie because he's gonna rock your world.
I I agree with everything you just said. Yeah, Delroy Lindo is the reason to watch this movie for his performance. But also, if you want to watch this movie, it will educate you in about Vietnam War, about wars in general. It would just educate you. And but I agree with you. I gave it a 2.5 on Letterboxd. I stick with that. It's hard to watch, but it's educational to watch, and it's not good education. I mean, we don't want to see people get shot and killed, and you do see that in this movie, real footage, and it's never good to see.
It's jarring. It's
But
very jarring.
yeah, yeah, and I was like, wow, when you show that in the opening, I was like, wow,
And
this
not only
is
that, they showed like a picture of like show an image of a baby that was face was blown off. It's just like, man, it's just like I wasn't prepared for that because the guy
yeah,
saying you all came to our country, you did this to us, you did this to us, and they show footage, and I'm like, oh man, yeah, it caught me off guard because I wasn't expecting that to happen right then, and when it
yeah,
does, it just man.
yeah. It- that opening though, when that guy is shooting another guy in the head, and he just walks off like nothing happened. I
And
was like,
blood is just pouring out like
yeah.
a fountain. It just was
So that is the world we live in still. People do not care. People have no respect for others. They don't care if they don't care regardless.
no love for human life, man. No love for
Yeah.
human life. And that's sad. That's tragic. Hey, life is important. Your life is important. Just want you to know that. And if you're a soldier or veteran and you went to Vietnam, and I know a lot of people that went to Vietnam came back and they were called baby killers and different things like that. I want to look at you real quick and say this to you. Uh, I thank you for your service to your country. I thank you for your sacrifice to your country. Me and Brandon stand
Yeah.
in respect and honor of you. And if you are going through something, please reach out to like crisis hotline or something. And and there's people that's there to help you. But you matter, and what you did for this country mattered. And I'm sorry that no one gave you the respect that you deserved for what you had to go through when you served, and I want to let you know that personally. So,
Well said, Aaron. Well said. Uh, we can. I guess we can shift real quick. Final thoughts on Chadwick. What do you remember him? What is your first memory of him?
my first movie that I seen Chadwick Boseman in was 42, and when I saw that movie, I own it. Actually, own it on Blu-ray. When I saw that movie, I was thinking. I was thinking this guy's gonna be a star, man. That's my first thought was like he was just so commanding. And it was like it's cool seeing this side of because I didn't know much about Jackie Robinson. I'm ashamed to say I didn't know a lot about him. I knew that he was the first black man to break the color barrier in Major League Baseball. I knew that there was like Chadwick isn't the first person to play Jackie. Jackie is the first person to actually play Jackie, but Jackie played himself in his own biopic back in the day, and then Blair Underwood played him in the soul of the game, which is an HBO original movie from back in like the late '90s. But Chadwick embodied embodied Jackie Robinson to the point where I, much like Denzel and playing Malcolm X, I can't see anyone else playing the role of Jackie Robinson. I think that he did such a great job.
Yeah. My first memory was a show called Persons Unknown,
Call what?
which was Persons Unknown. It only lasted one season, but it was about these strangers. They wake up in this strange town. They can't leave the town. He was one of the actors in it. I just remember thinking, watching him perform, it's like, this guy's on a different level. I was like, he's not the main star in the show, but I could see him going places. I see a young Denzel in him, and I was like, he's gonna go places. But the performance for me, that was like made him like one of the best actors I've seen, was playing James Brown. I didn't believe
Get
that
on
was
up.
him. Yeah, I thought I was watching James Brown on screen, and I love James Brown's music, and I was like, oh man. And I remember watching the behind the scenes, saying how he prepared, and everyone on screen just was like, we're not working with Chadwick, we're working with James Brown. And I was like, man, he, as you said, he embodied Jackie Robinson, he embodied James Brown. I mean, he was,
Thurgood Marshall. He
yeah, I
played
haven't seen
Thurgood
that
Marshall.
one.
I actually own that as well, Marshall, uh, and he embodies him as well. And a guy another guy, sadly, as an African American, I should know more about, but I'm aware of him because I learned briefly about who he was, but
Yeah,
didn't know all they did for civil rights, and so it was an amazing way of just learning about him. And it seems like Chadwick, no matter what role it was that he takes, he gives every single role that much respect and importance. He doesn't say, "Oh well, let me just do this one little role and I'm done, and let me get out of here." Even his role as Storm Norman, you can tell that he loved and embraced that character.
yeah,
And his character in 21 Bridges, you can tell he embraced that character. And so that leads me to, you know, another movie that I know him from, of course, is the Black Panther. But I thought that he was fitting to be cast as the Black Panther. Um, and I fell in love with his character in Civil War. Civil War.
yeah,
Um, and that introduced me to him, and I was like, oh, they did a good job. They cast it really well, and and yeah, just he embodied the character, and then he was so cool. And for me, I've been waiting for years for a Black Panther movie. Like that's how it was for me. I've been waiting ever since I found out about the character back in like the '90s for me, like early '90s, like when I was like 10 or 10, 11 to 12 or something like that. I found out about this character, and I was like, oh, it's so cool. My gateway black character was, of course, Blade in comic books because the movie with Denzel, not Denzel, Wesley. Um,
well, yeah,
yeah, Wesley. Well, Denzel is the one that got Chadwick his shot
yeah,
in movies, but yeah, it just made me want to see the Black Panther even more. And at one point I was like, John Michael White make a good Black Panther, but honestly, they cast who they needed to cast in Chadwick
yeah,
Boseman.
yeah. I can't imagine a Black Panther without Chadwick Boseman. And I know he said there is no Black Panther without Denzel Washington, which is, I mean, that's true. For what Denzel did for not just black people, I mean, for all actors. Uh, man, it's a great thing he came on the scene for acting.
You,
Denzel,
we learned that from Ken Sagos. Ken said that. Ken
yeah,
talked about how much of importance it was being on screen with Denzel. So
yeah. So I mean, I don't know what their plan will be moving forward with Black Panther 2. I know this. A lot of people wanting the sister to take over the mantle. Some feel that recasting might be the best choice. How do you recast?
Yeah, I don't say you recast. I say that for one, I think that it would be. I would like to see Cherie, the sister, become the take the mantle as Black Panther, but also part of me wish they hadn't killed off Killmonger,
Yeah,
because if anyone that could be a different character, be Killmonger, but become Black Panther as Killmonger, and become the Black Panther, I would say it'd be Michael B. Jordan, and I believe him being friends with Chadwick, he will bring honor and respect to that role, and it would be kind of cool to see how people will be like, well, didn't you try to kill me? Didn't you try to kill people? Why are you now trying to save people? And just it'll be a conflicted character,
yeah, it would
and I
be.
thought that that'd be really really nice, but
But he is rumored to be in the sequel. I don't know how, but yeah, he's rumored to be in it. But I don't know what you do. In all honesty, I don't know. It's. I mean, that's hard. That's a hard decision. I mean,
I wouldn't recast. I would not in my personal opinion, I think that it was not. It's not. I think that T'Challa, the character that dies with Chadwick, I believe that the mantle of Black Panther can continue. Um, Chadwick,
continue.
Chadwick as T'Challa is like Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man,
Yeah,
as Tony Stark, not just Iron Man, but it's just Tony Stark himself. And you don't really want to see anyone else but Tony Stark be the Iron Man. Sure, we saw War Machine and Don Cheadle and stuff like that, but that's not Iron Man. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
so I feel that you gotta have like I would be, even though he's still living, I would not want to see anyone else play Iron Man. I would just want to see Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark being Iron Man.
yeah. I agree. Like you said, War Machine's different. He wasn't a main character. It's like saying I don't personally want to see anybody play Captain America. I know it's happening, but I don't want to see it. But it happens in the comics too. And I know his sister takes over the mantle in the comics. I don't know a lot about the Black Panther comics, but I do know his sister does eventually take over. I think that's probably the most logical thing you can do without really upsetting a lot of fans. Because you recast him, that's going to be a problem for most fans, I would say.
I have a
You kind of understand it from a business perspective, but for fandom wise, he is Black Panther.
let
I
me
can't see another Black Panther movie without him, and I know it's going to happen, but he is Black Panther.
let me bring it up this way. This is the Mark Out Movie podcast, so we do mark out, and so marking out is a wrestling term. Let me bring it into wrestling. So when Diesel, when Kevin Nash and Scott Hall left WWE, it was not right to recast with fake Diesel and fake Razor Ramon. We saw through that. We didn't like that. We destroyed that. Right.
Right.
Uh, what was fitting, which some people say that it wasn't fitting, but what was fitting is say when Eddie Guerrero died, and the way that they passed that mantle or try to pass that mantle to Rey Mysterio, and just as a respect type of thing. And I thought that was a good way to honor the memory of Eddie.
Yeah.
Uh, but ultimately, obviously, uh, Ray didn't really pan out like that. Well, I won't say that because Ray at the time was one of the most popular wrestlers in WWE, and
I mean,
but I say his run didn't pan out the way they wanted it to.
Ray's. I think he's always going to be looked at as the most popular little man in professional wrestling history. And I mean, he deserves to be, but he wasn't Eddie Guerrero. He didn't have that personality that Eddie had. So
None
in
of them
that
does. Chavo
aspect,
doesn't have it. None of them have that
no,
personality.
no, Eddie was Eddie. There was one Eddie and only one Eddie, and so I haven't seen a Latino wrestler since then that has had that it factor, like Eddie did. But I haven't seen a Latino wrestler that's had they've had people try to be Rey Mysterio. It don't pan out. Sin Cara, Kalisto. It just it doesn't pan out because there's only one Rey. Rey is great at what he does.
I agree. Eddie was the equivalent, and I know we didn't went off on this, but real quick, Eddie was the equivalent of Eddie Guerrero was the equivalent of so there before Eddie there was like the Tito Santanas and people like that. But Tito, for all that he accomplished, Eddie Guerrero was on the Rock level of being a worker. You know what I'm saying? Eddie was on like we say that about Delroy Lindo in this movie, what we say about Chadwick Boseman when he's in movies, they're on different levels. Eddie Guerrero was on a totally different level of being a performer. He was able to merge comedy with athleticism, and he was entertaining, and he's missed even now to this day. He's missed. I miss him, and I didn't know the man. I missed him. I'm getting kind of emotional thinking about him now because he was such that good of a performer, and it was tragic they passed. But yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't want to. I'm going to different place.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying about Rey and Eddie, and they could do something similar for Black Panther. It's not going to be the same. It's going to change. Black Panther's going to change, and like I just feel that it's not Black Panther without Chadwick. It's not truly. I mean, the series will continue. The character will continue, but it won't be the same without him.
It's kind of like Jason Voorhees without Kane Hodder. To me, it's other people.
Series is not continuing right now. So
I know, but still, my point is,
I know what you're saying.
You have people that you link to these characters, and not just people playing a character, but people linked to like iconic characters. And I think Chadwick made the Black Panther that much more iconic. And
it would be very similar to say like in the early 90s recasting Stallone, going some different direction. It would be kind of like that. People wouldn't have been for it.
And I think and I know we done got into Rocky now, but we'll stop it. But I want to say this real quick about Rocky. What helped Rocky and what was good is that they took Rocky and spun it in a different direction and put him in the character of Mick, and made Michael B the Stallone, made Michael B the Balboa. I mean. To his Mick, and I think that saved the franchise. I know that with Black Panther, it's too early to do that. They're gonna have to acknowledge his passing. They're gonna have to do something. But I think that it is a bad idea to cast someone as T'Challa. I think it's also a bad idea to just use footage like they did in Star Wars, with Princess Leia. I think it's a bad idea to just do that because it can come off as really, really weird. And I think the death of a character and the way that they treated it with the most respect is how they did Paul Walker in the Fast and Furious film. I thought that was the most respect that they could do to a character.
As of right now.
As of right now.
I think it's going to change with this next one.
Are they bring them back? Like what do you mean?
That's the rumor. The Cody Walker was rumored to be on set of the last Fast and Furious film. Several cast members have said that Brian may pop up. So
now somebody's at my door. All right, well, come on in. Well, this is the end of the podcast. We thank you for listening. Come on in. You already didn't disturb it. We're here now. All right. Thank you for listening. My name is Aaron Whitlow.
I'm Brandon Spivey.
and we thank you for listening. And as soon as I find this, I end this. In this, we miss you, Chadwick. All right, see you.